Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. And for those of you who are new here, I am Vatsal and I'm an artist, songwriter and music producer. And in this video, we are going to be taking a look at some of the coolest sounding plugins from a company called Safari Pedals. So let's dive right into it. So for the sake of full transparency, the guys over Safari Pedals have given me the whole plugin bundle, but they do not have any say whatsoever in what I'm going to say about these plugins in this video. So to demonstrate all of these plugins, I have recreated my original single from a while ago. It's called You're the One I'm All About. And I'm trying to mix the whole session with just Safari Pedals plugins. So let's see what I have done. So I always start my mixes from my drum bus. And the very first plugin on my drum bus is Gorilla Drive. Fairly a simple plugin. You do not have a lot of functionality to mess things up. You just have an input knob, a tone dial, an output knob, then you have a phase button and bypass button. You can also blend it and you can also engage the auto gain. So I am using this preset called Fat Mommy Ape, which adds input and just dipping a little bit of output and controlling the tone a little bit. So let's listen to the drum bus with the Gorilla Drive on and with it off. So, I don't know if you're listening on good speakers or headphones, but without the Gorilla Drive, the drums do not sound that amazing. They sound a little thin, not so finished. But with the Gorilla Drive on, they sound beefy, they sound meaty, they sound disgusting, in a good way. So after this, I'm using an EQ to cut the resonances from my drum bus. Then I'm adding this. This is called the Chamel Strip. This is my second favorite plugin after the Gorilla Drive. And with this, I'm just using a drum bus preset. This plugin also offers 3 different EQ types. The EQ 1A, which is a Pultec style EQ. Then we have 73, which is a niche style EQ. And then we have 4K, which is an SSL style EQ. Then we have this style here, which adds a reverb, plate or spring. Then we have 3 types of compressors, Fairchild, LA2A, and 1176. Then we have this gate dial on this plugin to cut out unnecessary noises in the vocals or your signal. And then we have this input drive, which adds sweet saturation to the signal. So let's listen to the drum bus once again with the Chamel Strip on and off. And just like that, my drum bus is completed. The Chamel Strip adds that final special layer of processing to my drums. So after this, I am treating my individual drum channels just to make them sit better in the mix. And for this, I am using a plugin called Dragon EQ. So here it is. Fairly simple plugin, you cannot mess it up. And this is the one thing I really love about Safari Pedal plugins. You cannot mess them up because they are so simple and easy to use. All you have is 3 band knobs, then 3 frequency selecting knobs, then these knobs, or I should say these faders to add some saturation to individual bands. And that's all you have. So with this plugin, I'm shaping the sound of my kick, and I'm adding saturation to my mid band and my high band. And for tone shaping, I'm adding highs to my kicks around 8K-ish. And then I think I have added some mid-range to my kick, which is around 4.5K. Now after this, I have added the same plugin on all of my individual drum channels, and I have tweaked the settings according to my taste to make them fit better in the mix and make them sound cohesive. You can see that. And then finally, I'm using this plugin called TDR Nova. And I'm using it just to cut some unnecessary highs or lows or some resonances in all of my drums. And that's pretty much it on my individual drum channels. So let's listen to the drum parts with the Dragon EQ on and without the Dragon EQ on. And let's engage it. Now, after this, my drums are going into these two buses right here. So one is for reverb and the other is for distortion, because I really like both of these effects on my drums. Now, for my drum reverb sound, I am using this plugin from my Safari Pedals bundle. It's called Dirty Dog Reverb. So this one right here is a really cool and disgusting sounding reverb plugin. And when it comes to functionality, you have all of it. You have a pre-drive, which is saturation before your signal hits the reverb. Then you have time. Then you have your high pass and low pass filters. Then you have a pre-delay dial, a gate, and finally the post drive, which is another saturation instance built into the plugin, so that you can add saturation after you have added the reverb. So this is the kind of tool that helps you achieve that saucy kind of different kind of vibey sound. And I cannot even explain this to you in my words, but we can listen to it, and we're gonna listen to it right now. Now let's move to the drum distortion bus. And here I am using a plugin, a fuzz plugin called Cobra Fuzz, which looks something like this. So another simple plugin, you cannot mess it up, just engage it and have fun. And that's what I'm doing right now. I have added the pre-boost. My blend is on 100%. You can see it right here. The setting is the third setting. And I think I've also compensated the gain with the output knob. And let's listen to it, how it sounds. So I'm not a huge fuzz fan, but this plugin sounds awesome. Let's move to our bass, and we have 3 channels of bass right here. And on all 3 of them, I'm adding the Chamel Strip. And I'm literally just using the preset called Put This on Bass. And maybe I've tweaked a little bit of input drive, but that's pretty much it when it comes to individual bass tracks. Then on my bass bus, I have this plugin called Time Machine. This one right here. It's basically a compressor, and you can choose to emulate an era, and it will add that noise to the signal. And you can also control the noise from the noise dial. It's fairly a simple plugin. Just add input, compress your signal, and just trim down your output, and that's pretty much it. And I'm not doing much with this, but actually I think I'm doing much with this, and I'm really loving it. So let's listen to it, how it sounds. So this plugin is making my bass sound more consistent and more into the mix, which is really awesome because you want your bass to sound consistent throughout the mix. Then I'm adding an EQ to basically cut all of the low lows and high highs because you don't want them. Then we have some plugins for automation. This is basically filtering out the bass in the pre's and choruses. Then we have sidechain. And finally, I'm using the Dragon EQ to shape the bass sound just a little bit, just a touch of it. I'm not doing a lot. You can see that. Actually, I'm doing a little bit more on my lows of my bass, but on the highs, it's just a touch. And I'm also not using a lot of saturation with this plugin. And you can see that I'm cutting around 200s with a shelf, I think. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And adding a little bit of high. It's really subtle. Now let's take a listen to the bass with this plugin on and with it off. So with all of this processing, my bass will sit better in the mix and will sound really consistent throughout the mix. Now let's move to the synths. And I'm not adding anything on my individual channels. I'm just adding on my bus. So first is Tremolo from Melda Productions. I really like Tremolo plugins. Then we have the Cobra Fuzz. Again, I'm using the third setting with pre-boost on, and the blend is around 31%. And I have compensated the gain because it adds a lot of gain to the signal. Then we have owl control. So this is basically a compressor. This basically adds different textures to the sound. For example, smooth, pump, lo-fi, and mix bus. Then it has this input knob, this output knob, then this speed knob. This is basically attack and release settings of the compressor. And you can visualize them by hovering your mouse over them. Right now it's 106 and my release is 2. And you can change it according to your song or according to your taste. Then you have this ratio knob. And finally, you have all of these modes. So right now I'm using the pump mode on this compressor because I want my synths to sound a little pumpy, if that makes sense. It makes your sound more energetic. So let's listen to the synth bus with all of this processing from the Safari Pedals plugins on and with them off. So the synths are a little low in the volume right now, but they sound more cohesive and more consistent, and they sit better in the mix. Now after all of this processing, my synths are going into a reverb bus right here, and I'm using this reverb plugin called Flamingo Verb. Simple plugin, few knobs. I am adding drive to the signal. Then I'm tweaking the time and the width, a little bit of pre-delay, and after this, high pass filtering and low pass filtering. And let's take a listen to how my synths sound with the reverb. So this plugin instantly adds that vibe to my sound. Now after this, let's move on our electric guitars. We have 2 channels of electric guitars with minimum processing on them. I'm just basically using an EQ to cut the unwanted frequencies. Then on the bus, we have Gorilla Drive. I'm adding input and shaping the tone just a little bit, making it a little brighter. Then the blend is on 50%, around 50%, I guess. And that's pretty much it, because I really wanted the saturation on my electric guitars. After this, we have owl control. I'm using the pump settings with slow attack and fast release. My ratio is around 20:1. I'm adding a little bit of input and trimming the output. And finally, we have drag and EQ to shape the signal a little bit. So with drag and EQ, I am boosting a little bit of mids around 1K, as you can see right here. And I'm also boosting the high end around 8K. And I'm not using any kind of saturation on the individual bands. Now let's listen to the electric guitars with the processing on and with it off. So after all of this, I'm adding reverb to my guitars through a bus right here. And the first plugin on my reverb channel is Cobra Fuzz. I'm using the 4th setting, pre-boost on, blend on 100% and adjusting a tone a little bit, then matching the gain. After this, I am using yak delay, which is, I guess, right. Yeah. So it's here. So actually, it's not a reverb bus, it's actually a delay bus. So another cool plugin, really easy to use, has drive knob, repeats, ping pong section. Then we have a time. Then we can also sync it with the BPM. We have high pass and low pass filters. Then we have this random button, which will create some random delays if you want that. And I'm using a quarter note delay with this one right here. And let's listen to the bus, how it sounds and what it adds to the signal. So let's move to our piano. And on my piano, I'm not using any plugin from Safari pedals. I'm using this instead. This is 9000J SSL console by Brainworks, and I'm just using this one to add high end around 5K. After this, I'm using KHS Chorus plugin, then the filter for my automation, and then we have Nova, which is just cutting the lows that we do not want or need on this track. Now after this, we have our effect tracks. These are basically vocal effects to add ear candy to the song. The first plugin I'm using on my effect is Auto Tune. Then I'm adding Gorilla Drive right here to add saturation to the vocals. Then we have Flamingo Verb. And finally, we are filtering it out. On the next effect track, we have all of the plugins, but instead of using the Flamingo Verb, I'm using Ladybug Reverb. So this is another amazing sounding reverb plugin. So this reverb has spring and plate reverb built into it. You can dial in the amount you want. Then we have compression. We can add compression to make it sound less prominent. And we have a lo-fi knob to add something special to the signal. And that's pretty much it. I'm using the compressor around 31-34%. And I'm using it on spring settings. And my lo-fi knob is around 50%. After this, we have our heroes. The heroes of our song, the vocals. On my vocals, this is by far the easiest chain I've ever made for my vocals. The first plugin is Auto Tune to make it fit better with the mix. Then we have Dragon EQ to shape the vocal sound. Then we have Chamel Strip. And with this, I'm just using a preset called Dreamy Camel Vocals. And maybe I have tweaked a little bit of input drive, compression, and a little bit of EQ on this after adding the preset. I'm also using the effects on this unit. I'm using the plate reverb around 27%. And yeah, that's all I'm doing on my lead vocals right now. After this, I have copied and pasted the same plugin chain on all of my vocals, my doubles, and my backgrounds, ad-libs. You can see it right here. The same chain I'm using on all of them. Right here. But on my harmony vocals, let's first go to the harmony vocals. Yeah, right here. The first plugin I'm using is this compressor. This is the distressor compressor from IK Multimedia. So my attack is around 5 with this, and release is around 1.8, and I'm using a 4:1 ratio, and I'm slamming it quite hard on my backgrounds. Then we have the Chamel Strip. It's again a preset, the Dreamy Camel Vocals, with a little bit of tweaking here and there. And I have also increased the amount of effect I'm using on this one. It's around 33% now. Before it was 27 on my leads. And I am also using the LA2A version of compression on this one. And finally, let's listen to the whole vocal track. All of them. Leads, backgrounds, doubles, harmonies. With all these effects on and without these effects. I just have this feeling that I just can't fight. That you're the one I'm looking for. Open up your hands now. Just close your eyes. 'Cause you're the one I'm all about. 'Cause I'm all about you. Yes, I'm all about you. 'Cause I'm all about you, you're the one I'm all about. 'Cause I'm all about you, yes, I'm all about you. 'Cause I'm all about you, you're the one I'm all about. Ah, nice. So I really like what the plugins are doing to my vocals. After this, my leads and all of my doubles and backgrounds except for harmonies are going into a delay bus. Again, I'm using yak delay. The beats around 14% and drive is around 15%. I'm using a quarter note delay. And that's all I'm doing on my vocals. To me, at least, they sound really, really nice. So now let's move on to our master bus, because I really like to use some plugins on my master bus. The first plugin I'm using is called Rabbit Tape. So this is kind of a tape emulation or tape saturation plugin, if it makes sense. And you can add it on anything and everything. It has this wow control, the flutter control. Then we have grit, which I'm adding around 67%. We have two modes, reel to reel or cassette. I'm using reel to reel. And then we have this blend knob on 17%. Because I'm using it on my master bus, we do not want to distort it. Then the second plugin is this Line Master, and it's basically a limiter, and I'm just using this preset. It's called Craig Brower's, if I'm pronouncing it right, Craig Brower's EDM Mix Bus Wide. And maybe I have adjusted some settings here and there, but this is all what I've done on my master bus. Now let's listen to the whole mix with it and without it. I just have this feeling that I just can't fight, that you're the one I'm looking for. Open up your hands now, just close your eyes, 'cause you're the one I'm all about. 'Cause I'm all about you, yes, I'm all about you. 'Cause I'm all about you, you're the one I'm all about. 'Cause I'm all about you, yes, I'm all about. So there you have it, guys. These are some of the coolest sounding plugins I've ever heard. The color, the saturation they offer is just on another level. They are really easy to dial in. You cannot mess them up. And one thing that I do not like is that they do not offer high pass and low pass filters on channel strips or the EQ plugins. So I think we need low pass and high pass filters most of the times when we are mixing or even producing a song. Else, these plugins are just awesome. So this was the video, guys. I hope you liked watching the video. Do check out Safari Pedals plugins. They are really, really awesome. And subscribe to the channel for more content like this. And I'll see you next time.